Clear to engage. Time on target. 5 mics. Out.
Oh, I was waiting for you to say something crazy, Matt, and then I was going to hit you on record.
And no, I won't.
It was pretty wild. I'm in the middle of listening to the podcast that OPB did on the GOP primary. And I was just listening to what Dirk was talking about. And then I've been in and out of my car and meetings all day today. So I haven't had a chance to really listen to it. But of course, I left Saturday night at Dorchester right when they were putting people up on stage to do the whole debate. And Vicky and I had to leave because I had to go to Nashville for a conference and stuff. And then, and of course, I missed all the great things. The debate was boring from what everybody told me. It was basically like the GOP debate. We all agree that the governor sucks and one of the three of them would be better. So, but the real fireworks apparently came after when Dudley shook Ed Beal's hand and then said something, I would say not nice, because clearly based on Ed's reaction to that. And then Ed came back with something and something comes back with something. But we have an eyewitness who was there. Matt Bunch is with us. So, Matt, tell us what you didn't see.
Chris Dudley did try to put that handshake in his right hip pocket for sure. And it was interesting. I wasn't close enough to hear what was going on, but Senator Drazan's exit through the fray and then back on for pictures. So I really didn't know what happened until the next morning when I saw the video.
There's always good moments at Dorchester, especially that's why I only go when the governor's race is on, because the tension tends to be at its highest at that point. So
it was a good one for me. It's only my third, but it was dynamic because of that governor's race. It was intriguing for me as the newest member of the House then to be able to have conversations around the table on where it's going and who's thinking what, who's doing what to who.
So Representative Matt Bunch is joining us, and Reagan's here. Hi, Reagan.
Hey, that handshake was quite a thing because it was really a hold. He does the thing where he grabs and then he kind of pulls it in and holds it for a while. That's always quite a move because he's just like, hey, don't go anywhere. I gotta talk to you. But on stage in front of everybody. And I loved Walden. He was just standing back. I'm not getting any closer to this.
I think he had a can of gas.
Oh man, that's so
from a distance, it really looked like he was trying to put Ed's hand in his right hip pocket. He give him the what for?
It sure did. He definitely. I'm assuming, when you get to these primaries where we're at right now, ballots have now officially hit. Some people got them, some people haven't, but they're in circulation with the post office. You have no idea when you're going to get yours because that's our reliable post office. But
they're tracking it. They're tracking it for me. They're going to tell me.
Yeah, right. They'll let you know. And then, so Matt being the newest member, you only get to hold on to that for another 7 or 8 months, and then you're not going to be the newest member anymore, but good for you.
It was good fodder on the floor. I used it a lot, but out here in the campaign trail, it doesn't mean much to be the youngest.
The governor race I find interesting because with having you on, I thought it was kind of fun having you on after we just did our last show talking about the poll that we did in the governor's race, because you're replacing Christine Drazan's House seat, basically, is what you were appointed to replace. You and I've known each other for years now. You wanted to run a while ago, and you just did, like, I think Reagan and I talk a lot about you waited for the right time. You waited for your turn, and then your turn came, and I think you're fulfilling it. So one, kudos for you for, if you try to wedge your way in there, you have to make sure you win in these primaries. Otherwise, it's a little more difficult than you think.
It's a lot more difficult. I mean, because I was in the heat of the race. I don't remember the exact date when Christine filed in the last cycle. Um, but we were doing good things and having fun and
Yeah.
learning what we're supposed to be learning. But yeah, no, it's very challenging to challenge the incumbent in the primary.
Because I feel like you still would have beat James Heeb because you filed, right? And then you unfiled when Christine got in.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she filed close to the filing date. I don't know how
Yeah.
close it was, but yeah, no, that same poll that pushed her in showed that we had the name recognition across the district. We were doing good things, knocking on doors, beating pass, making coalitions with people across the district. So we did have a head up on jumping in for the appointment for sure.
And then so was your decision not to run because you weren't going to beat her, or that you liked her back in Christine when she filed? Like, was it
Yeah,
like, well, I'm not going to win, or was it like, well, I'll just wait?
a little when she first ran for the House, I was the sitting chair of Clackamas County Farm Bureau, and she was looking for our endorsements, and I was busy and I was doing things, and she ended up being at a winery um, close by where I was harvesting garlic, helping a buddy harvest garlic. Dirty, dusty mess, and I said I can come by and say hi, and so. My political relationship with her goes back, and so we ended up endorsing her for that first run, I believe, and so it wasn't out of her. You look at it in paper. You got some guy that came off the front porch, nobody backing him, just decided that he didn't like how he was being represented, and
Yeah.
then to have her file, she wasn't going to do anything that I didn't want to do, but she could do it a lot faster. She knew the ropes. She's been there, and so it made no sense financially, politically to challenge that. She was going to get done. She was going to change the representation that I was looking for,
Well,
and
being a
so
state
I was okay
legislator
with me.
never makes financial sense. That's a money-losing proposition if there ever was one. It's
Yeah,
like, how would you like to pay to work?
yeah,
Oh, sounds great.
and pay twice as much as what you earn.
That's right. Yeah. How would you like a horrible commute? Yeah. Also, no influence whatsoever.
None.
I mean, you get a little bit of influence.
This
It's just
Mitch.
whether or not the Democrats agree with you or not is whether or not your influence matters. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think that, well, it worked out for you because you kind of breezed through the appointment process, if I remember right.
Yeah, I mean, the PCPs didn't know me that well. I hadn't been engaged at that initial, push in front of the commissioners meeting. And, and I was green. I mean, I'm still green. So the idea that I could present myself there, get in front of the county commissioners, and then get a unanimous nod from them, breeze or whatever, I was very blessed and fortunate.
No, it's great. I think the appointment process is sometimes harder than a campaign. It can
It's
be
shorter.
yeah, well, yeah, but it can be challenging. And
Oh, yeah.
Clackamas County is it's an interesting county because, like, if you go back to 22 and just look at, like, and maybe it's an off election county, right, where it just does better in 22 because it went really good for us in 22 Republicans, and probably helped hand Lori Chavez Dreamer the congressional seat. We won some House seats and stuff, and we're really competitive. And then 24, it just seems like it just went back to the blue side, which is, and I looked at the numbers. It looks like it's definitely it's a turnout issue in
Yeah.
Clackamas County. So
That's what I was going to say. I haven't looked at the numbers, don't know. But my guess as, per capita population of rural Oregon is in Clackamas County. And so my guess would have been turnout, would have been that they would had been a heavy lay on that non-turnout Republican vote.
or there was more turnout from the Democrat vote.
Yeah, and
Probably part of it
again, I haven't
too.
looked at the numbers, but I would suggest in Clackamas County, House District 51, that it was a matter of
Yeah.
turnout.
What is your relationship with the party now? Is Clackamas County, do you see like good things happening in Clackamas County? Because they've kind of been there's been a lot of turmoil, but we need Clackamas County. Christine needs it. If she wins this primary, she needs it. All of our competitive races, I think we have three competitive races that I can think of off the top of my head that we're going to need Clackamas County to be competitive, maybe four of those races. We got to have Clackamas County show up. So
Yeah, and my relationship's good. I mean, it's with the administrative side. I mean, Rick Riley and Dan Tooze both will answer my phone calls when I go. But it's been a challenge. My primary opponent is deep in the weeds with the PCP. She uses that. She evidently got more PCP votes during the appointment process, and so it's been a challenge. And so I've not leaned on my race, leaned there, but it looks like everything I see is pretty positive.
and then because you've got a pretty decent background. Well, besides the fact that you come from my side of the mountains, let's just be honest. Being an Eastern Oregon guy, living in Clackamas County, you got street cred with us boys over here.
Yeah, I call it cross-pollinated from the fabric of life to the valley.
That's good. I like that. They yeah, because you were over there and then you were working at Clackamas County Fairgrounds. You're the manager. You were the manager. You are the manager.
Chair of the fair board.
Chair of the fair board. Okay.
Still sit on the fair board, but with my appointment and my obligation to the good people of the district and the state, I didn't. I chose not to run again as chair of the fair board, but I still sit on the fair board.
Sure, that makes sense. So in short session, what do you think was like the biggest thing you learned being the rookie? I'm kind of curious. Like where the bathrooms are? Or...
No, I had no problems finding those. I think the biggest challenge was just with my ability to communicate on a personal level, that when we got to the floor and just some of the things were said, I'll just tell you, when we talked about the abortion thing and the born alive business, I teared up. I had to walk in the back and get off camera. I mean, so I wasn't prepared for that level of discussion about something that is just so basically human nature for me, that those things were said, I guess. So that was by far the biggest challenge. I think the schedule thing, understanding the committee system, what your responsibilities are on a committee, how those affect other committees, your relationships with the people on the committees. I think so my biggest focus, and it wasn't challenge, but it was the learning curve was on the committee system and how to maneuver through that minutia.
Was that a Freudian slip?
Manipulate. There's not a whole lot of manipulation. We're the youngest guy in the building, but yeah, maybe a Freudian slip. I do have a degree of psychology from Oregon State University.
Oh, that means you know how to talk to animals.
Make them salivate.
So, Matt, I'm curious, being newer, and because there are those of us who have been there a little while, me, Brian, and others, and we sometimes get used to the way just things are always done. Was there something that you noticed when you showed up and you're like, that doesn't make sense? Like, that the Republicans are doing this, and is there something that maybe even now still you're questioning as like, I'm not sure that makes sense? Because I think sometimes we really do get locked in this same way of doing things and used to, well, this is how he's always done it. Is there anything kind of in that category for you?
No, I don't think anything to that level. I will say that level of commitment of the caucus to stick together regardless, because of the political environment that we had this short session, that I think was apparently clear that that's not what happens all the time. And so, great mentors that walked me through that. Brian's wife, Breeze Iverson, Representative Iverson, they just took me under the wing a little bit and kind of guided me through the facts that, you know, this is what we do. I've got caught. I mean, the educational piece probably more so that you would think when you're the newest guy, you would get some heads up from some mentors. And so I really had to look for it, look for that advisement. And when I got it, it was freely given thereafter. So it was just a matter of asking. You're your own mind, you're making your own decisions, you're dealing with your district and their needs. And so that respect was pretty high to give me that rope to hang myself with. But Reschke out of Klamath Falls, Representative Reschke out of Klamath Falls was highly involved with some good pointers to me. Greg Smith, certainly Representative Owens from the Southern. So they didn't necessarily take me under their wing, but when asked, they freely gave advice and counsel, and that was real comforting once I knew that piece. So I don't know that I was caught off guard with how things go or normally go, but that piece was evident that we were committed to stick to our guns, and everybody was unified, and I was counseled through that to make sure that I didn't kick the wrong can.
Well, and all the people you named, they span the gamut of style of legislator, quiet to loud, span the gamut of perception, maybe amongst conservative to maybe less conservative. Although I think that's always up for debate, how conservative somebody is. To a lot of voters, if you got elected, you're immediately less conservative. So that's if you hold public office, you lose credibility, right? But I think what's super interesting about that too is there are some that show up and they kind of think they know how the place runs. And so I think that was one of the things that you benefit from is having gone and asking for advice versus running and falling on your face. At least when you fall on your face, now you know how to fall so it doesn't hurt so bad with the advice.
Yeah, yeah. I don't like skin in my nose. I don't mind, not knocking the back pocket off my britches, but yeah, it's more my style, and it's not. I wasn't looking for one train of thought or consensus, so I just looked at who was making intelligent comments, who who carried themselves well, and that's who I went to for advice for leadership.
I think you're right. The thing you said about the floor stuff is very interesting to me because I think you can have a meeting with somebody and you're talking rational about a policy and you're over here and then you're literally doing it as you walk to the floor, and then they get up and they do a remonstrance and they just blow you away and you're like, oh my God, was that the person I literally was just talking to? And they're up there doing a remonstrance that you just completely didn't see coming out of that person. And those things can be a little kind of like you said, kind of drastic to see.
Yeah.
Just right up front, because it is a little jarring because you're just like, wow, we were just talking housing policy and now you're, blasting Trump administration or you're blasting ICE or whatever they were doing, in the short session. It does jar you a little bit.
Yeah. And for the most part, I found that those guys had scripted comments or thoughts that they were working on. But the ones that got me is having that conversation in their office, in my office, on the floor, wherever, and then 180 degree when they're sponsoring bills and talking about it. So that was a little disarming. It was evident for me to pay attention to that's probably not where I need to invest a whole lot of my efforts and time.
No, I think it's the floor stuff, and then knowing how to work the committees is that's probably takes a long time to figure out how to pass a bill and stuff. And then you didn't really work any bills, so it was really just kind of absorbing what was happening, really, and just kind of trying to figure it out. So what are we working on now? What do you think? Well, you got to win a primary, which you're going to win a primary. I don't think there's a race that Dana hasn't run for. I don't believe so.
Just 2 county commissioner seats. She's in for state office. So,
that's right. I think she wanted to. I think she filed at one time for one before, then
maybe.
unfiled and ran for commissioner. I believe in 22. I
Yeah,
almost
maybe.
feel like she did that on purpose. Yeah, she did that then.
Yeah, and all I'll just tell you is experts have been wrong, but history has proven if you knock on doors, make the calls, make the relationships, that you will be successful.
I think so too. I think that primaries are bent on that at the end of the day. I always think that the person who looks more like you, thinks more like you, talks like you know, comes from your way of life, like they tend to win those primaries. And I think that, you know, you've done a pretty good job of doing that. Reagan and I both picked you to win the primary in our podcast, our
I saw
primary
that.
podcast.
I sent you a thank you note.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't even listen to the podcast and sent you
Yeah.
thank you on that one.
Oh, Reagan just texted it, but there's an endorsement alert that's out there that I wasn't aware of, was that she did get James Heap's endorsement. So I don't know,
Oh,
Matt.
it's been out there for a while.
Oh, has it? Okay.
Yeah.
You know, James is just a lost soul looking for a spot. Has always been my thing with James. He just was a, you know, not a bad guy inherently, but I definitely know his issue that he ran into with the police happened at your fairgrounds. And I think there was that was I think when you and I initially talked, we were talking about that one, and that was just really bugging on you and weighing on your heart.
Well, I mean, if you show that level of activity in a public forum, then it speaks to your character, and that's when I got frustrated with the representation. That's when I dug a little deeper. What's he doing? You know, and again, I didn't. You know, he got appointed the same as I did when Christine left. He served that term. I didn't bust him in the election. I allowed it to flow, and then watched what he did through that full elected term. And so I wasn't rash about jumping in, but I was paying attention. Come on, jump in. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hope
So,
they're
no,
well.
no, no. Tell me on. So, what's the policy moves for you? What are you thinking? What's the? That was kind of what I was getting at. Is after you win the primary, we're going to work on policies moving forward. What's the stuff that your district's caring about? What are they talking about right now?
Yeah, you know, the wildfire business, the reclaimed woods that are out there, and so I've made connections with a biomass think tank group that's just trying to think how biomass can get involved and how we can make it economical or just clean up the woods. I had a conversation with a major timber owner, corporate owner, that I will probably talk to see what their thoughts are on legislation. But the idea that everybody's going after tax, we got to get tax, and I agree, we do. But if we also try to increase the income stream, the cash flow to the state. And so I think the natural resource is an obvious place for me. It's part of my DNA from the eastern side of the God's country. Some people say I call it the dark side of the moon, but from my upbringing in Eastern Oregon, that logging in natural resources and maintaining them. And it's a simple fact. I've been irritated from the beginning that the owl was more important than the population. The fish was more important than the population. And it's because we've never been plugged into that equation. And so the timing's right to make humanity and the Oregonians get plugged into that equation so then we can manage that system. I mean, we'll go on a rant and rave, but so I think that's initially going to be my focus as soon as primary is over, is figure out where we can make the most impact and to start opening up the forest. My thought with biomass was to open up the side door, instead of full on logging, you know, which I'm for that part of the management too, but there's so much timberland that if we get some kind of biomass, we can open up the side door, opens up a door to get into the forest, and then go from there.
Those Democrats don't like combustion, man. I mean, it's just they think.
But the problem's been proven out. The cost of combustion when it's not managed is horrendous.
Yeah, no,
Different kind of combustion, but just as bad.
Yeah.
More.
And so we got to, I mean, I can feel we killed the bill on the floor this year in short session. that's unicorn. I mean, so that's turning. People are listening, being more conscious of how it benefits the Oregonians as opposed to their party. And so I think there's some ways to offset that. So as opposed to cutting taxes, which again, I'm all for in every way we can. Um, but I think if we also start looking at that income stream so that we increase the revenues at the state level, then things get eased up in the big picture also.
Well, and that's, I mean, grow the economy, right? And you can't just grow. The Democrats have focused a lot on the tech sector, and that's important for parts of the state, but it doesn't benefit or it doesn't employ the whole state. Not everybody's going to be able to work at Intel, right? And especially not when they're cutting jobs. But there's folks that have to work in the forest, and you've got lots of small logging communities that have been the ones most punished by the environmental crackdown. And so you really do have to have, and I think we've had a steady stream over the last few decades that has happened of good warriors on that front. It's just about putting the pieces together in a way that we can get it across, a opposition chamber, right? Not just the Democrats, but even the Senate, where, because the Democrats are just the opposition. The Senate's the enemy.
No.
Hey,
I was so
hey.
young they didn't even allow me on that side of the house.
Reagan
No, they
Reagan
did.
spends one session on the House, and all of a sudden he's dumping 30 years of the Senate out the
Yeah.
door.
They allowed me. They welcomed me over there. But yeah, I think that's true. I mean, in real estate, it's location, location, location. Business is location, location, location. Now I think it's timing, timing, timing. The timing's right. The mood's right. We need the income. We need to start building that resource. And the problem, Reagan, I think in a lot of cases is that infrastructure, those small towns, those small logging towns, just straight down the Cascades, which is not, on the edge of the valley, but you can get Eastern Oregon, but those towns have dried up. And so then to try to build that infrastructure back up and whatnot, it's going to take a bit of a time. And
Yep.
and if you don't have the infrastructure there, then you've got to transport, and we know what that transport cost is today.
So tell me about like just with your district. Is it? I mean, with Christine, and just to be kind of blunt, she's been running for governor since she lost running for governor. So I haven't really learned a lot about Canby, House District 51. Does it extend out into a lot of the rural areas? I'm very familiar with the one just to the south of you because I'm working in a primary there, but I'm not familiar with 51 because I know it's kind of
What are you talking about, 18? Is that
yeah,
what I said? You're
yeah.
breaking up. The sound's looking. I'm not
18. Yeah,
sure.
yeah, 18. Yeah. So because 51 jumps into 18, but there's a weird, and then you butt up against Adam Baker, who I'm helping Adam out. So you butt up against him on the south, and then you got Wilsonville to your west, right? And then you have kind of Canby, and then you kind of bleed out into a lot of the nether regions, right?
Yeah. Per capita, the most rural Oregonians in the state. I've got a little bit of edge of asphalt there at Oregon City, and that's not really even in my district.
Oh, okay.
Um, so really, the asphalt is Canby, Estacada, and Sandy, all rural, small communities, different focus. Canby being more agricultural farmer focused, Estacada and Sandy being more, that forestry, mountain logging type of industries, but everything in between. And so the rural part, she did a great job when she was here in building a platform for me to continue on in working with these communities. So regardless, she didn't share any of her notes or files. I had to rebuild the wheel a little bit. She could have been a little kinder there. No,
They never do, Matt. By the way, they
yeah,
never do.
I will. I will hand my files over freely. Actually, I'll probably make sure who's ever going to be there next has the baton before anybody else knows it. Would be my hope. So,
Oh, he's a kingmaker.
yeah, I don't know that the governorship piece bothers my district too much. Um,
Okay.
I think she did a great job of whatever her talents were to find money and fund primarily infrastructure, but water plants, wastewater plants, those type of things, some capital improvements on buildings. And so I think she spoke to that rural community that wanted to build that infrastructure. And I don't know what her philosophy was about why or how that fit into her overall program. For me, it makes sense to fund that infrastructure so those local elected officials can decide how to grow. And if they're free to grow, then the state benefits from it, and they'll eventually see and just keep our paws off of it enough. And I think she did that. I think she funded those projects. I didn't see a whole lot of overreach from her to control what she created.
No, that's true.
I don't know. Did that answer what you were trying to get at?
Yeah. I was just kind of curious. And then Canby's pretty much everything that you hate about Portland. Canby hates about Portland, probably too, huh?
That's funny. It's a retirement community. It's turned into a retirement community.
Really?
The schools are having issues right now because every third house that's built in Canby has one child. And it's not affordability. It doesn't seem to be, but it seems to be that bedroom community mentality that it's a comfortable place to live, that you can still go in and say hi to your neighbors at the grocery store, local owned franchised store. Freddy's is still there. So it's grown and still stayed quaint, I guess, as far as Canby goes. Estacada is doing a super job with their city movements and planning. The school district superintendent there is spot on. If anybody ever finds out about him, he won't be in Estacada for very long. Well, maybe he does. Maybe he wants to be there. I don't know Ryan's position, but a super, super engaged superintendent of schools in Estacada. And then Sandy's just growth pains. I mean, they're on a moratorium right now because of wastewater. So it's a big issue in the district that has to happen because Sandy still has to be that way to get over the mountain.
Vicky and I were talking, we were driving home last night. You'll like this, Reagan. So we get off the plane, sitting in row 2. So we flew first class on the way home. And we didn't have to check. We didn't have to get our bags. So I said, we're in the truck at 7:44. And I go, I bet I can be home by 10, which is to Prineville. And she says, there's no way. And I go, watch me.
Yeah.
So I'm hauling and we get to Sandy. And of course, everything slows down at Sandy. And this is, of course, Sandy's my hometown. I grew up there. So
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. On the way to Estacada out there, right by Sandy Farms is where I grew up.
Okay.
And anyways, we're driving to Sandy and Vicky says, hey, is Sandy, I go, I love Sandy to death, but you would never want to live here because there's literally like one road through and one road and the same road the other direction. There's no it's so difficult. And she goes, well, are they still under a moratorium? And I said, well, I thought Bonham got that $5 million for that. So that hasn't happened or?
The $5 million was gotten.
Okay.
I believe. I don't know which $5 million you're talking about, but the $5 million was granted there. But they're at capacity. They've got a dispersing stream that's drying up or low flow moments, and then they get challenged. And so, on the books, they were looking to pipe down to Gresham, raw and untreated. Which was a favorable thing. I think where they're at now is owned and managed plant. And then, they've got some other options as far as what to do with the waste, the clean A++ water that comes out.
Well, my sister lives there now and her husband. So based on this interview, I don't know if they got your vote yet. So I don't. And what I was kind of when you get to Sandy, when you think about it, when you go, it only can really grow east or west is, I guess, the way, right? Because you go to the south, I guess it can go somewhat south, but north.
You can go south all the way to Eagle Creek, all the way to Estacada, and north.
Yeah.
So they won't be. I don't know that they'll go up to the mountain much, but I think that south and west back to Boring.
Kind of out past Fred Meyer's and kind of out that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, I haven't looked at it, to be quite honest with you, as far as what's available. I know there's some boundary property boundaries that are being pushed right now, and what things, because the growth, because they can't grow, they can't expand uh, to to capture more land. I think they've got some land that's ready to go.
So the moratorium then is put on by DEQ. Reagan probably knows more about this than me, but when they put a moratorium on it, so until they can build that larger capacity plant to handle the poop, basically, it's just they'll just say no more. They don't let you grow. You can grow within your current expansion, but you can't expand beyond that. Is that right, Reagan?
I'm looking at it right now because I haven't
right.
spent a lot of time on that. We do natural resource sub over here.
Come on,
Brian.
DEQ is
That's
up here,
Ted's sub.
bailiwick.
That's Ted's sub. We do have DEQ's budget though. So, the city of Sandy is not currently accepting new land use applications that propose new sewer connections to give sewer system improvements time to catch up with the community's growth and aging infrastructure, according to the Sandy Clean Waters Public Works on the city website.
Which is a bummer. They were the fastest growing town at one time in the state, or they were right up there.
Yeah, and something happened. It was before my time. I don't know, but it needs to be fixed from a state level. It needs to be fixed.
That whole corridor. By the way, it made it home.
And it is 2 lanes coming in and 2 lanes going out, so it's not like Canby.
Matt, it's been 2 lanes going in and out since I was there 40 years ago. It was the same 2 lanes. Joe's Donuts is there. That's all that matters. So
yeah, right at the pinch point.
I made it home at 10:20, by the way, guys. So I was 20 minutes late. I had to go to the bathroom. I couldn't handle it.
Your bladder betrayed you.
Yeah.
I will talk to the representative about those Eastern Oregon. Oh, Valley Boys cross-pollinated back to the other side. That's an easy pollination thing, because primarily you pollinated already to the eastern part of the state. Did I tell you that my uncle was the extension agent in Cook County for years?
No.
Yeah,
cool.
years and years and years. All of my cousins grew up there.
Yeah, we're trying to get more grasslands. I mean, the biggest problem over here is the stupid juniper trees. So, growing like weeds.
He burned them. He burned everything.
Oh, that's why you like combustion. I see. It's in your soul.
It is, and I don't think it was legal back then either. Not to tell on my dead uncle's soul.
Well, that's fun. So, who do you think's going to win the governor's primary, man?
The Republican
primary.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure of it. It's I know who I want to win, and it comes down to just understanding what can be done once they get there. I think, as we know, the challenge is going to be in the general, and I just hope that whoever comes out of there can take that general and give that seat a change. I think being the youngest guy in the minority with the governor sitting in the same party would be a fun and unique time.
Yeah, I would imagine. I think so. I would assume you were supporting Christine. If you didn't, I think that would be.
I'm sorry. I did endorse Christine.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, before Ed Deal got in the race, but I don't know that would have changed. And the reason I endorse, I think she has the knowledge of what cord to cut first, and what doors to open, and what doors to kick down, and so I think that is my hope, that she has the best opportunity to do this as quickly as possible, and that's why I support. I mean, quite honestly, in my relationship from that time in the garlic field to meeting her at the winery, all dusty and dirty, she does have a unique ability to govern. In my opinion. And what I mean by that is that she can, in any situation, balance the ship and still hold her ground, her personal grounds, and make her decisions. And that's from my observations. That would be the main 2 things.
That's a decent way to put it. I think if you're looking at who can walk in and do that job, or at least knows where all the bodies are buried, around state government. I mean, it's kind of hard to argue that Christine, isn't the most well equipped to do that. So I think that's a decent, and she was your state rep. It's kind of hard to,
No, it has nothing to do with it. That
wow.
doesn't have anything to do with it. But what does happen, it is you mentioned that we just got to win, in a
Yeah, the general election is where all the fun's really going to begin, and it's going to be a hard fought battle. I hope whoever emerges out of the governor's race for our side, helps our down ticket, because that's super important to us, on the legislative level, is really having, even if they don't win, like having down ticket support is really important from the governor's race, because you need to make the conversation about the state of Oregon, not about Donald Trump.
right.
So the more that we can talk about, failures of, one party rule, one party leadership for over 20 years in Oregon, I think the better off we are of convincing some of those people in the middle to, give Matt Bunch a try. He's not a bad guy.
Yeah, maybe. You guys know more about that. I haven't been at it long enough to understand that, and that's the same with who's going to be better in the general, and making that decision who you want coming out of the primary. I just don't know how that lines up. But what I do know is that the federal government, whoever's been there, Biden beforehand, we still had our problems, and the chances of us taking what $3.5 billion to the homeless and have a 35% increase in homelessness, that's challenging. That wasn't a federal issue. That was a state issue. And so I think there's talking points around the Trump. It's not a Trump problem. I don't know where it is. I don't know one single issue that I have to deal with in my primary in general that trumps the issue.
And of course, Democrats are going to push and talk about Trump as much as possible. I mean, they to the almost total detriment of local issues, will only talk about Trump.
That's
And
all they
I
got.
find that so fascinating. I mean, it partly has a lot to do with the record they've created on those items.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the conversations on the floor. Ice this, ice that, do ice the, they're federal law enforcement officers that are playing by the rules. My challenge to everybody that brought up ICE, I said, fine, give me that one example where they busted a legal United States citizen for immigration violations, and I will scream with you at the top of my lungs from the highest piece of furniture you can find. Nobody can come up with it. The closest we came up with was the family from Gresham, and that was because of just some kind of legal pass-through between Trump and Biden's administrations, I understand it. But they were back. They were back, and we welcomed them back. We personally, from our district, welcomed them back. The family brought them down chocolates.
So I want to close this out with a just kind of like a fun question.
Okay,
So the election, I think, is November 3rd. I had to look at my calendar to make sure I had this right. It's
May
always the
19th
first
for me.
Tuesday.
For me, it's
Well,
May
yes, the
19th.
primary.
Okay, just
The
clarify.
primary. But we're looking forward
Yes.
here to what matters. Let's say you make it through that primary. Let's say you make it through a general election. You wake up the next morning and we got to start planning. And turns out Republicans won a majority. And the leader, now future speaker, comes to you and is like, nobody wants a gavel. They won't take them. They don't know what to do with them. Which gavel do you want? Will you please pick up a committee gavel? Which one would you be like, oh, hey, I'll chair this, if I got a chance at it?
Nice. Well, I've made the formal request to be back or to get appointed to the ag committee, being as though there's a vacation there. So I've made my point to all parties who will listen,
Yeah.
to be appointed to the ag committee.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Helm spot would be good for you. He's not coming back. So that
Helms, Owens is
co-chair.
there and Sharp.
Yeah.
So
Well,
come
you
on.
and him can co-chair it. You and Owens. They do have co-chairs in that committee. I mean, it could make some sense.
Yeah.
It might take convincing of the Democrats. I think we can
Yeah,
make it work.
yeah. I've got some interesting ideas about committees that we can talk off air with about. But
Ooh.
I think that TED committee that I was on, that Transportation Economic Development Committee, that subcommittee, I
Yeah.
think I think it was an interest. The leadership on that was marginal. The appointments there are somewhat sedated. So I think it's something that you can look at from there to do your homework, understand what's coming in front of you to ask intelligent questions, and then really guide what's actually getting presented on the floor.
Yeah. Awesome. All
Okay.
right.
Or audits. Audits is easy too. I'd take that audit, Gavin.
Yeah. Yeah. We might
Well,
actually do some. They might actually be interesting
they're going to.
with
I
the
mean,
Republicans.
it's well, and it's set in motion. That audit crew seems to be fairly focused on doing the audit that they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. No, I
So
agree. I think obviously having the new Secretary of State has helped out quite a bit on that front. He seems to actually care about finding fraud and shutting it down.
yeah,
So that's helpful. But
Fanboy, fanboy.
it would be great if everybody else involved wasn't just desperately trying to avoid any of that stuff becoming public the whole
yeah.
time we were getting there, and then the Democrats going, we're not sure if that's a big problem or not. But I'm glad you're there, and I'm glad you're keeping an eagle eye out on it. Thank you, Representative Bunch, for joining us today. It's been a treat. Do you have your harmonica with you?
No, they're all in the truck. Sorry.
Dang
Really
it.
feel like he said he was going to play the harmonica for us if we let him.
I still
Well,
remember
if you got me 2 seconds, I'm in the man room, so it's just across the driveway. I can run and get the harmonica for you. That's not a problem.
Yeah,
I
go. I'll put it on pause.
okay.
You go get the harmonica, and then you can play us out. That'll
Yeah,
be
there
kind of
you
fun.
go.
I've never actually paused the meeting, Reagan. Let's see what happens. While we wait for him, why do we not pause? Why don't we just give your thoughts on the last week of all the polling and everything with Drazan and the governor? You think the ship is done? I did get a mailer from Dudley today.
Okay, so
He's rebounding.
conspiracy theory time is if one of the candidates started going negative on Drazan as the leader, like what happened in CD2, is there an opportunity for Deal to sneak in there if Dudley and Drazan start contesting, and start increasing their ad buys and start increasing the mail and start, but no one's gone negative yet, really, and that's the thing I'm waiting to see. And ballots are already out. Usually, we're already negative by this point. In most of the primaries that I see, there's two in my area that we've talked about. Senate District 6, House District 11, already way negative. They were pretty negative from the beginning, honestly. But those went negative right away. And so it's just shocking to me that the governor's race has been so very mild. And we've obviously talked that pretty much to death. But that's the one conspiracy theory where everyone's gonna go, because these
I
things
know.
as they tighten at the end, maybe. But I still think Drazan still has money. She still knows what that looks like too,
Yeah.
and so she'll respond. And she's probably got some ammo. I would be shocked if they didn't have anything in the can against
Yeah.
Deal or Deadly.
I love the
So
fact that a firm handshake is what we're talking about.
I know that's the scariest
Controversy.
thing that has happened in this primary. So, Representative Bunch, you played. I remember this. I'll never forget this. I was walking you out of the Capitol one night. We were the last two there during short session, probably in the last 2 weeks or something like that. And we walked through the rotunda, and you kind of played into the rotunda. That was amazing.
Was that amazing? What it was? It was
Yeah,
crazy.
man. I missed that one.
There was nobody else in the building.
I
Mm-mm.
love
It was
the
Reagan on that.
acoustics. The acoustics in the rotunda are so cool. My favorite part about it, and I was so glad it opened this year for the Christmas music, because I loved when they have the people come in and play. And Vicky and I went over. We literally went down there. I did a couple of meetings just for a reason to go there, but I just sat there and listened in the rotunda to them play, and it was so much fun.
Yeah, yeah, it was.
Well, without further ado, Representative Matt Bunch.
Sounds good.
Put it out tomorrow. I think Zoom has automatic.